We are locked, we are loaded, and we are live here on WMMB and iHeart Radio. This is the Shooting Straight Radio Show. It's all about firearms, the Second Amendment, and all things pertaining thereto. I am your also gracious and benevolent host, Royce Bartlett, reeking of gunshot residue and toxic masculinity, as we talk all things gun-related for the next 2 hours right here in the Showcase Studio at WMMB. If you'd like to call in to add your muzzle blast to the conversation, it's 321-768-1240. That'll put you right here in the mix. Got a couple of great guests coming in hour number 2, and you don't want to miss that. They'll be live here in the studio with me. They are the authors of a book called Outside the Wire in Blue. I'm going to hold this up so you can see the title of it. These guys were actually police officers here in America that were brought into a DOD program where they utilized law enforcement tactics used here in the States and employed them against Al-Qaeda in the fight against terrorism there. Fascinating book so far. I haven't been able to get through the whole thing, but I have certainly been reading into it already. Almost ruined my show prep for the day because I was so wrapped up in the book. But you're going to get to meet Dave and JT and Mike here in the second hour, so stick around for that. They're going to be a fascinating interview, and you don't want to miss it. Also, was out there at Paul Puello's class this morning at the realistic self-defense class. Fantastic goings on out there. If you ever get a chance to take one of Paul Puello's classes, do it. It is money and time well spent. You will learn a lot. And you're going to come away with more confidence in the firearm and everything, your equipment and everything else, and more confident in your personal abilities. And we are still locked, loaded, and live here on the Shooting Straight Radio Show on WMMB and iHeart Radio. I am your gracious, benevolent host, Royce Bartlett, reeking of gunshot residue and toxic masculinity as we talk all things gun-related here on Shooting Straight. And I told you I got some great guests coming in, and they just arrived a few minutes ago. I'll tell you what, you couldn't get it any more timely, gentlemen. I tell you, let me get you potted up here. And I'm going to introduce them to you now. I showed you this book before. I'm going to hold it up for the camera so that you can see it. It's Outside the Wire in Blue. And this book is about well, it's actually more than about just a program, but and I'm going to let the guests explain that to you in a little bit better detail. But apparently there was a DOD program where they actually brought in law enforcement officers who have special skill in dealing with the thug gang type people, and apparently that was the mentality being battled over there with dealing with Al-Qaeda and such like that. And so right to my left immediately, I've got David Shearman, and then we've got James J.T. Tayman. Did I pronounce your last name? You got it. All right, good deal. These gentlemen are police officers, and then to my right here, Mike. I didn't get your last name, Mike.
Agent Mike.
Just Mike?
That's correct.
Okay, it's just Mike. We can call him JM. Just Mike, and he's hanging out with the entourage here, and as they're going through and promoting this fine book. So, gentlemen, this was an incredible. Just what little I've read so far. Just the fact that you were able to walk in here, JT, is quite a surprise, because you were told after getting hit with an IED over there that you'd never walk again. So
yeah, I took a straight shot right under my seat, like 12 inches down, and blew me through the armored roof of the Humvee.
My word.
And yeah, I wasn't looking good there for a
I
while.
bet. So tell us why in the world police officers were over in places like Afghanistan and Iraq dealing with this kind of thing, because that's pretty much the central theme of the book, correct?
That's correct. What happened was in about 2006, from lessons learned by the Marine Corps and the Army up until that point in Iraq, they decided that they needed some new thinking in dealing with the IEDs, because that's what we were getting killed by. The troops were getting killed by the IEDs. So they locked a bunch of smart guys in a room, and when the doors opened up, they decided that what they really needed to deal with these people who were acting more, the insurgency was acting more like a criminal organization, were actually police officers. So they went out and DOD created a program called the Law Enforcement Professional Program, and they recruited state, local, and federal agents who they brought into the program. kitted them up, dressed them up like the military, embedded them all the way from small platoon-sized units all the way up to the corps, and they ate with the troops, slept with the troops, fought with the troops, and unfortunately several times died with the troops.
I tell you what, that's incredible. I mean, did you ever think that in your career as a law enforcement officer that you'd end up over in a hot spot like Afghanistan or Iraq, embedded with our fighting boys over there?
No, the premise of the program initially started off as again IED centric, and what we were there to do is go after the bomb making networks. But in 2008, when we moved into transitioned into Afghanistan. Then we expanded our role because it had been so successful up to that point. And then we started doing counter-narcotics, counter-corruption. And you'll read a couple of chapters in the book, and that most of the guys that participated in this program all considered it to be, even though they had highly successful careers in law enforcement, they considered it to be the most rewarding part of their professional career.
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet, especially if you get to hang around some of those guys in uniform over there.
Absolutely.
So they brought you in to draw off of your experience in dealing with criminal crimes and criminals on the streets that you have been dealing with. I say, Dave, you were with LAPD, were you not?
I was with LAPD and a couple other agencies as well, Federal Air Marshal after I left LAPD. And my role over in Afghanistan was I worked undercover, in an undercover capacity with what we call the Investigative Surveillance Unit. This was a number of 13 teams around the country that 2 American police officers, myself, and my partner was Sergeant Tim Gilbert out of Chicago PD. And 13 other teams were built up. We were embedded with 20 Afghan police officers of the officer rank, led by a colonel down to a lieutenant. And it was pretty much just like a undercover dope unit in the United States. And our job was IED-centric as well, but we were also tasked with mentoring this undercover unit, and I was in Wardak province, and in the art of developing informants and those type of things from an undercover situation. And so we developed the network of bomb makers and the hierarchy in Wardak province, and then we used that to take down caches and high-value targets.
So they basically drew on y'all's skills in that area because that is something that they had not been obviously employing over there, and obviously they brought you in because they thought you'd have some sort of success against, and obviously you did. So what kind of skills did you guys bring from the law enforcement world into the military world that were most effective in dealing with the drug trades and all that stuff, and the IED and all that crap? So,
well, you have to consider that we had an assortment of guys with a very wide, varying background in law enforcement. We had ATF guys who were into the bombs, who could construct and deconstruct bombs. We had guys who were DEA, who were involved in counter-narcotics their whole life. We had guys who did white-collar crime with the FBI, who got involved in the white-collar crime. So everybody had basically niches of experience that we drew on collectively to actually carry out the investigations that we did for the Army or with the Army. See, we were supposed to mentor the Army in these tasks. So that's the way it was built. We would mentor the military, but we were actually doing the deed.
Doing the operations yourselves.
Right. Well,
so many times you'd have in the hierarchy of the program, we'd have LEPs that got assigned to a battalion staff.
Now, just real quick, let's tell our audience what the LEPs are. The LEPs.
Law enforcement professional. That was and LEP is the acronym for that, law enforcement professional.
Okay. Just so people don't get emails. What is a LEP?
Yeah, exactly. So in a lot of instances, LEPs were put on a battalion staff, a brigade staff, a corps staff, a company level, and actually a staff advisor to the commander. So they would be able to look out into the battlefield, and the colonel would say, hey, LEP Sherman, what do you think about what do you see on the battlefield through the eyes of a policeman? Which they were, somewhat lacking in that regard. And so a lot of our guys operated in that capacity, as well as we had guys who had border protection experience here on the border in the detention facilities, in the forensics labs. And so there's a whole sundry, almost like a police department, was set up nationwide with all these labs operating different capacities.
We mentored the commanders from 3- and 4-star generals in Kabul at ISAF headquarters, all the way down to that 23-year-old second lieutenant at some far outreaching COP or combat outpost.
Wow, heard the music a little early there, but we are coming down to the end of this segment. That's incredible that they would draw you guys in, like in very special, all from very specialized units, obviously, and use your knowledge and your skill at combating violent crime here in America, and then taking that and applying, making battlefield applications there. That's obvious. That's a very unique program. I mean, I had never heard of it until Brent Shepard was telling me about you guys. I'm like, really? They're using law enforcement tactics for the military? But that tells me one thing: our military will go draw the knowledge where they need it to overcome the situation. Absolutely. So that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
And we'll be right back with more here on Shooting Straight with James J.T. Taman and David Shearman and Just Mike. And so stick around. If you want to call in, add your muzzle blast to the conversation. It's 321-768-1240. Stick around. Yes, sir. Center of mass. 2 there and then 1 to the kisser. That's how we do it on Shooting Straight. That's how we train. That's how we roll. Hey, by the way, I've said this many times. Don't skimp on your carry equipment. If you skimp on your carry equipment, especially your holster, especially even your belt, get a good concealed carry belt. One that's made and designed to hold a holster and hold it rigidly to your body. If you get one of the middle Walmart special belts, your holster probably not going to function properly in the hour of need, and you're going to find yourself in a bad situation. Also, they can build you, make you there. What do we got bleeding over? Oop, okay. If you're looking for, you need a good Kydex carry holster. Well, the one I'm wearing right now is my favorite carry holster, and they built it for me there at Freedom Guns in Rockledge. They can also build you an AR to your specifications, caliber specific, whatever the case may be. They can build it for you there. Also, they offer Cerakoting, and they got a great floor full of Liberty safes. They offer delivery and installation too. And you can do some training out there on their state-of-the-art training simulator. So check them out at 1255 Florida Avenue, Suite A, just north of Rockledge High School on Florida Avenue on the west side of the road. Go in there and you tell them you heard about them on Shooting Straight and that Royce Bartlett sent you down there. So we're back to my distinguished guest here, the authors of the book, Outside the Wire in Blue, written by David Shearman and J.T. Taman, who are here live in the studio with me with their bodyguard, let me get you guys potted up, with their bodyguard, J.M. over here, Just Mike. But where can they get this book, guys? OutsideTheWireInBlue.com?
Roger that.
Okay, on Amazon too, maybe, or not yet?
Nope, it's all over Amazon. It's been out there since last year. You can get it on paperback, hardback, audio version, e-version.
Kindle?
So Kindle as well. It'll be in major retailers next month or two.
Good.
The best place to buy it is on our website at OutsideTheWireInBlue.com. We'll sign it and get it shipped out to you right away. And all our updates and event schedules on there as well as we go around the country.
Very cool, because this is all about a program where the Department of Defense brought in law enforcement officials from the United States, all of them with their particular skill set, and used them in combating the insurgency and the Al-Qaeda and guys like that in hotspots like Iraq and Al-Qaeda. So what skill sets do you guys think that you brought that did the most, that were most effective out there, that you were able to pass on to our military guys, that they were, that left them with greater tools to deal with the threats over there and the situations?
Well, in a general overarching viewpoint of that, police officers, cops, they have this incredible ability to relate to people and bridge gaps and talk and different languages per se, both with the military partners and so on, and the civilian capacity. So from a general stance, these highly experienced police officers brought that ability of being able to communicate with the community, and this was a coin fight as well. And so the ability to express that experience to the commanders they were working with, as well as in the other soldiers they were working with, was probably one of the biggest attributes they brought to the battlefield. The flexibility of being a police officer and relating to folks, I think.
Yeah, when you use the term COIN, what does that refer to? Is that an acronym?
Yeah, it stands for the counterinsurgency effort.
Oh, okay.
The hearts and minds, if you will, of the Afghan people. And I think that and if you look at police, what they do every day on the street in the United States, we do COIN every day on the street. If you win the neighborhood, half the battle is gone.
Exactly.
So,
if you got the citizenry supporting you, that is an extra nick in the bud there of the violent crime in that area. Absolutely.
Yeah, and when we rolled into neighborhoods, we rolled into villages in Afghanistan, the cops were the ones who really put their finger on the pulse of the village, you know, immediately. And the military really, really recognized that, our ability to put our finger on the pulse of the people, you know, to keep their guys safe, you know, when they conducted their operations there.
Dave?
And, you know, just the general investigative capability of police officers. You know, there's a sundry of officers came from the federal down to state and local. And, you know, the combat environment has changed tremendously since Iraq and Afghanistan. It's not what you think of as in terms of World War II or any of those type of operations. It's totally changed. There's civilian dynamics to it. There's criminal dynamics to it, so on and so forth. So the police officers, in an embedded sense, many of them brought to that capability of investigating actual instances. And in fact, many LEPs actually investigated shooting situations that involved American soldiers and I mean, maybe a thought of civilian, who, because they're not uniformed, it wasn't a civilian. He was an insurgent or a Taliban or whatever, but because they're just in plain clothes, maybe a shooting took place, and now the investigation took place. And the LEP would bring his investigative skills. Many times that occurred, and they were able to clear soldiers from a bad shoot type of situation. So that investigative capability was time and time utilized and really changed the course of a lot of soldiers' lives.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, because there have been several very prominent cases where our soldier boys have been accused of murder, and I'm like, I want to gnash my teeth right now just thinking about it. And that's where you guys came in. The average soldier out there doesn't have your investigative skills that you've been employing for decades now on the street, and you guys bring that to the table. I bet a lot of those guys were happy you were on board, huh?
Yeah, in the asymmetrical warfare fight, one of the big advantages of us is because we're used to seeing the enemy who hides, you know, among us.
Yes, good point. Very good point.
That's one of the big driving factors of the program, is we're used to targeting people who live among us. The military is very good at operationally targeting enemy forces, but when it comes to delineating who's good and who's bad within a population, they struggle with that, and that's what they counted on us immensely for.
That's a good thing you brought that to the table. We'll talk about dealing with the drug trade in a little bit, but you were dealing with the bomb makers over there, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That's what the program started off at, doing bomb making networks.
Right. And unfortunately you were on the receiving end of one of those IEDs, and like you said, you were blown clean out of the top of a Humvee. And that wasn't the sunroof on the Humvee, by the way, people. And I was reading about what you went through there, and you were in a halo brace for, what, 6 or 7 months?
I had a burst fracture to my C1, which they call the Superman break, because it's the same break that Christopher Reeves had.
Oh, my.
So I had a C1 burst fracture, broken back, crushed legs. Yeah, actually, the EOD guys over there said that they'd never seen a guy punch through the armored roof of a Humvee before.
Goodness. Wow. So, I hope you had your pot on your head. Because but I'm not even sure that would do much to lessen that blow.
Yeah, and you were talking earlier about making sure you get good equipment.
Yeah.
I can tell you, that I got launched through the top of that Humvee, and the barrel on my M4 was bent, so it was totally useless. But I was laying down on the ground when they first started to work on me. I reached down, and my sidearm was still in the holster. And
What
if I
was your
had to
sidearm?
shoot, it was the M9 sidearm.
The Beretta, okay.
Yeah, but I had it in the old Serpa holster. And I'm going to tell you what, I can't believe that it stayed in there, but there it was. If I had that shoot from the ground, I was good to go.
Wow.
So you got to have good equipment. There's no doubt about it.
Unfortunately, some of these retention holsters, your gun will stay in there when you want to try to draw it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's when you don't want it to stay in there. But that's amazing that didn't go flying off.
Yep, it is.
That's a tremendous blast to take. That kind of pressure to shove you through the roof of a Humvee.
Yeah, several thousand feet per second. Just think about that. Yeah.
Wow, my friend, the fact that I'm sitting there across from you looking at you and talking
No,
with you
I'm
is a
blessed.
miracle.
I'm blessed, my friend. I'm blessed.
You sure
There's no doubt
are.
about it. Yeah.
You sure are. You're walking like nothing ever happened. And if I hadn't read what I just read, no way he was in an IED blast.
Yeah.
But there was a guy that was there at Paul's class today, Izzy Matos. I've had him on the show a few weeks back. He was a Marine for 10 years, and he also was hit by an IED.
Right.
And he's doing okay physically now, but my goodness, what a thing to recover from.
Tough road.
And that's a tough way to find that IED,
Yeah,
isn't it?
no, there's no doubt about that. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, tell us about how you interdicted the drug trade there, because obviously, especially in Afghanistan, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's how they fund a lot of their terrorist activities, through the drug trade, through heroin and things like that. Yes.
That's correct. And if you put it into perspective, I think Apple Corporation has about 60 to 70 billion dollars a year in profit, while the Afghan heroin or opium trade last year was they estimated around 95 billion.
Wow.
So if you put that into perspective, then you know why it is so prevalent there and why it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And we work very closely with the Drug Enforcement Administration over there, along with the military, in trying to cut off the supply routes, because most of a lot of it's being processed in Pakistan into heroin, then smuggled back and then through Iran. So we did a lot with the interdicting the supply chains.
How much of that ends up in the United States?
Most of the heroin in the United States is from Mexico.
Okay.
So I would say maybe 10, 15% makes its way from Afghanistan. It's primarily flooded into Europe.
Wow, okay.
From there.
I didn't realize it had such a big market in Europe,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I don't know. If I was a European, I might shoot up myself. I don't know. Hey, stick around. We got more to go here on Shooting Straight with special guests James J.T. Taman, David Shearman, and Just Mike. So stick around. We got more to go. Yes, it is Royce Bartlett with special guests J.T. Taman, David Shearman, and Just Mike. And I know we've kind of kept Mike out of the conversation. We're going to turn it loose on him in just a few minutes here. First, I want to let you know you're in the Merritt Island, Cocoa area. The gun site in Merritt Island is your one-stop shop at Merritt Island for all things gun-related. My buddy Steve Kennedy's been out there for over 3 decades. Actually, 33 years to be exact. So he's doing something right. And he's got a 9-lane, 25-yard indoor shooting range, handgun, and machine gun rentals. You know you want to shoot a machine gun, go take it off your bucket list, and then put it back on the bucket list again and do it again. Hey, if you want to try before you buy, Steve has a wall full of every possible defensive handgun that you might be interested in, and you can try before you buy, especially ladies. On ladies' night on Wednesday night, you get all your handgun rentals are free. What are you waiting on? Get out there and try before you buy. If you go out there on Monday nights, that's open combat match night, open to any and all shooters. Get out there and hone your skills. You have no excuse for not training. Like I said, Wednesday night is ladies' night. Thursday night, if you wear your gun sight t-shirt to the range, you get half off of your range fees. And if you don't have a gun sight t-shirt, I bet you don't know where the only place in America is to get one. All right, you're pretty good. Yes, at the gun site. Friday night is date night. So take your sweetheart out there and she gets to shoot for free. Steve's located at 125 South Banana River Drive in Merritt Island. Get out there, do some shooting and some shopping, and tell Steve you heard about him on Shooting Straight and that Royce Bartlett sent you down there. So, back to, well, I want to talk to Mike now. And Mike, as you said you wanted to add some 2 cents on this, let's go ahead and light your mic up.
Thanks, Royce. I was going to mention that about JT being blown up by the IED, and I spent a lot of time with him afterwards, and it's a miracle. It's a true miracle that he's even alive.
Yes, it's more of a miracle he's walking. So
it's just unbelievable. I watched Doctor come in and Doctor leave, Doctor come in, Doctor leave, and no one gave him any chance of living any type of normal life ever again. And then I watched him rehab himself and bring himself back and basically told me he had a job to finish. This man is so patriotic, it's unbelievable. And I watched him weeks later do things that were literally impossible and rehab himself and force the people there at the hospital to rehab him also, and fired a couple of them for not doing a good enough job. And he's truly an American patriot, as well as Dave, and they exemplify what police really are.
Yes.
And I think they want to talk about that because police have received a real black eye for quite some time, and it's bothered all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they can speak very well to that. And this book, if anybody gets a chance to read it, it's absolutely unbelievable. There's so many stories in there and so much to learn in there. And the whole overall story is just plain unbelievable.
Well, how soon from the explosion that he suffered to actually going back to the battlefield again, how much time elapsed there?
Well, I think he could tell you exactly because he'll know to the day.
7 months, 7 months, 2 weeks.
7 months, 2 weeks?
7 months, 2 weeks till I stepped back down out of that C-17 on the tarmac at Bagram Airfield.
And the driving force was you felt you still had some work to do.
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't any way to leave, that wasn't an honorable way to leave, so I had to go back and finish what I set out to do when I went there to begin with.
It was more than an honorable way to leave. He should have left. Every doctor said he should have left. Every person in the world said he should have left, but he didn't leave.
Yeah. Well, that is, to me, exemplifies not just a true patriotic American spirit, but also the spirit of the law enforcement profession. As I know quite a few police officers from the lower echelons up to detectives, and yes, everybody can read a story about this one cop did something bad and this one cop did something bad. You can't impugn the entire profession based on that. Not to mention the fact some of the stuff that some of the stigma being attached to police officers today is unwarranted. It's just they're absolute lies being told about them. Even our former president, who happened to get before a microphone in front of the entire country and say that those police acted stupidly. With those words, he cast the entire profession into a bad light, and all the stuff that followed after that. And I'm very glad to see you guys writing this book, because I believe we were talking about this during the break, what the purpose for writing this book was. I'll let y'all go ahead and explain that right now.
Could I say one thing? I think this book could give police officers an entire rebranding of what's happened to them over the past number of years.
Good. And it should.
And it will.
Good. I'm reading it myself, that's for sure. And a matter of fact, if any of my good friends want to borrow this, no. No, I'm kidding. But I do write in the front of all my books I loan out. This book was stolen from Royce Bartlett. That way, Guys, why don't you explain? Because obviously, you're not writing this to be self-aggrandizing and tell your story so that you can be famous with the media and all that jazz. What was the real underlying motivation for this?
Well, Royce, Mike hit it on the head there. The two serious objectives in writing this book. First was to bring to light what we believe is the true character of the American policeman. The guys that volunteer for this program, they already done 20 years on the job in the mean streets of America. They could have went fishing in the Gulf. They didn't have to do this, but when they got the call, they found out about the program. They not only rogered up, they laced up their combat boots, and they went overseas proudly to serve their nation. It was like 1,000%. What can we do to help out?
Wow.
And so, it takes unique people with that kind of frame of mind to do that. We're talking 8,000 to 9,000 miles away. You got a family. kids, everything, and just you don't have to do this. You already retired, and then just do it and go overseas. I mean, that's what we believe is the true character of the American policeman. And like Mike said, over the past several years, our profession has been getting, bullied and pounced on by every single person, behind a mic, in front of a TV, whatever.
And attacked and shot, sometimes in large numbers, like in Dallas that day, or in Texas.
I mean, we lost already this year. I mean, it's just incredible. But we hope in this book that we can inform the public about this program, and most importantly about the men that were involved in this and the true American character of those people that were involved in. And secondly, we had 5 officers that were killed in action in this program,
right.
5 LEPs. We had them from around the country. They went over there and served, and they were killed in the line of duty. And JT, you can expound on the 5 KIA that were killed.
We had a New York City cop detective.
Wow.
We had a Chicago detective. We had a U.S. Treasury Department agent.
Wow.
We had an Atlanta lieutenant. And who was the other?
I think it was Connecticut.
And we had a Connecticut State Trooper. 3 of those gentlemen were actually assassinated by Afghan policemen.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
They were targeted specifically?
Yes, and assassinated, correct.
Wow.
Which is a big problem. The military refers to it as insider threat.
Right.
But in the book, I just call it for what it is. It's cold-blooded murder.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we lost 3 like that, and then we lost 2 to direct action missions where they actually engaged with the enemy and were killed.
In combat,
in
actual.
Combat, that's correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is incredible. Dave?
JT and I have taken to the habit of writing autographing our books, and maybe it wasn't on maybe it was on purpose, maybe it wasn't, but we found out that, JT started signing his books Strength and Honor.
I'm looking at it right now.
And I started signing my books Service and Sacrifice. And I was thinking about that the other day. I don't think those are arbitrary words that just filtered into our heads one day. And frankly, that's what we are all about at Outside the Wire in Blue. Personally, we believe you got to have personal strength. You got to have intestinal fortitude. You have mental preparedness. You have to have the strength to be able to serve yourself, your family, your community, your nation.
Would that include a moral fortitude?
A moral fortitude like you wouldn't believe.
Absolutely.
And you have to have that strength so that you can enter in the profession of serving others. Law enforcement is about serving total strangers. And you have to have that strength so that, because with embracing a life of service to others, as in the law enforcement community or even other service organizations, that's a life of sacrifice.
Absolutely.
And lastly, with those 3 elements, there's honor in that. There is honor in serving and sacrificing your life for others, and you have to have the strength to do that.
I think so too. I've got a good friend who's probably listening right now. Scott, if you're listening, hats off to you too, brother. He said he became a police officer more out of a sense of ministry to minister to his constituents and stuff than having his desire to go chase bad guys down and stuff like that. To him, it was all about service, and I don't think I know a single police officer out there who doesn't have pretty much the same mindset. It is not about, I want to strap a badge on and a gun, go tell people what to do and shove them around here and there, and that ain't the attitude that I know.
That's not it. No, not at all.
Not at all. And when we got one more segment to go. So we would probably have you elaborate a little bit more when you come back about some of the direct action, some of the indirect, even some of the surveillance that you guys performed over there, and how that was, and how those skills helped our boys in green over there.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Well, we got more to go here on Shooting Straight. You go get you a sandwich, get something cold to drink, and you get your butt right back here in front of this here radio. And if you don't, I'm going to send a listener retention squad to your house, and we'll have a word with you then. How about that? Hey, the book is Outside the Wire in Blue. I'm holding it back up for the camera here. You can see it at OutsideTheWireInBlue.com, also on Amazon, Kindle, and other popular outlets like that. So go check it out. You want to read this book. All right, stick around. We got more to go here on Shooting Straight on WMMB and iHeart Radio. are still locked, loaded, and live on the Shooting Straight Show here on WMMB and iHeart Radio. Special guests, David Shearman, JT Taman, and just Mike. We'll get your last name before it's over with, Mike.
It's Agent Mike.
Agent Mike, all right. Agent Mike, you got it. A fascinating story that I'm, got here in front of me, and that you guys have been informing me about. How law enforcement personnel from the United States went to aid and assist our fighting boys and girls over there across the pond, and how they brought unique skill sets from the States and from their experience in fighting crime here and using it successfully over there in hot spots around the world. And I know you were telling me earlier when we were at the Police Hall of Fame today, JT, that there were several in this program who actually received military honors and awards for their service.
Yeah, in 2014, the Department of Defense Secretary of the Army awarded, I think, 12 of us at a ceremony in the Heroes Hall in the Pentagon.
Wow.
With the Defense of Freedom Medal.
Wow.
Including posthumously the families of the 5 who were killed in action. So it was a huge honor for us.
Yes.
To be able to be in the Pentagon and get that medal from the Department of Defense was a big honor.
Well, you obviously made a huge impact with everything you brought to the table,
Yeah.
and obviously there were many major successes that you guys were able to engineer through the skills you brought. What were some of the things that you guys? I think we were talking about IEDs, and one of the main components for a lot of the IEDs is the ammonium nitrate.
Yeah, we used to target shipments of ammonium nitrate primarily from Pakistan, is where they originated, and we would have our Afghans use their informants to try to pose as Taliban to buy shipments of ammonium nitrate. And I think one of the first ones we did, one of the first undercover, what we would call here in the United States buy and bust, was for 22,000 pounds of ammonium nitrate.
Wow.
And that was a pretty dicey deal the way it went down, but we ended up making the seizure and the arrest. And if you break it down, those 22,000 pounds per IED that could make, and then equate it to the equation they have worked out for casualties for
Right.
an IED strike, it works out to about 400 lives that we actually saved in that one undercover purchase.
Wow.
So the military definitely realized how successful that was.
So you weren't just over there. I mean, I know your shirt here, it says if it saves one life, it's worth it. You guys saved a whole lot more than just one life.
That's what it's all about right there.
Yeah,
It's taking care of those young soldiers, those 19, 20, 21-year-old kids who are over there giving it all they got. I mean, that's what it was all about.
Absolutely. Dave?
In the ISU program, Investigative Surveillance Unit program, we were under Joint Task Force Paladin, which was the counter-IED headquarters in the theater. And that whole objective was to take munitions, IEDs, any other type of munitions, off the battlefield. Because those IEDs and those munitions, however they're being manufactured and utilized in an S vest, a suicide vest, IED placed in the roadway, however you want to put it, in a V-bed. If we could get those munitions out of the hands of the insurgents, then they're not being used against the soldiers, and therefore we're saving people's lives.
Absolutely.
And that kind of goes hand in hand with the law enforcement career. We're helping people, total strangers, and that's why it was like an easy day. You want me to go and do this? You want me to try to identify the Taliban network in this province? Who's the bomb makers in this network? Yeah, I'll do that, because what we're going to do, we're going to take munitions off the battlefield, and we're going to save a soldier's life. And that was what motivated myself and my partner, and I know all of our LEP teammates to do that each and every day. Hey, can we save a soldier's life? And we were pretty successful at doing that. We had numerous operations where, through our informant networks, we identify where caches were, hundreds and hundreds of munitions, of mortars and large munitions, and through an informant network, go and discover where those are, and then blow them in place so they can never be used once again. So really, JT alluded to it at the top of the segment. I had been in LAPD and worked crash and gangs and some other departments, and I went over to Afghanistan and worked with these guys, these police officers, and alongside the soldiers, bar none, this experience was the most rewarding in my entire career as a law enforcement. And I've also been in the military for 20 years. Bar none, the most rewarding experience I've ever had. And I know a lot of our colleagues felt the exact same way.
Right.
JT, did you guys serve in the military also?
We were actually agents together.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
For 20 years.
Oh,
Yeah.
I meant like prior to becoming law enforcement.
No, I've never been in the military. That's why it was so special to me to be able to put that uniform on.
Yeah.
And participate with the military. I mean, it was like a dream of mine, you know. So
very nice.
It was awesome.
Well, maybe a little bit of time we got left here. Talk about how, obviously, the skills you brought to the battlefield, your police skills, is the mindset of those tangos over there, those terrorists, and maybe the gangbangers that you dealt with. Is there a similarity in their mindset? The way they think that really helped you be more effective against them over there.
Absolutely, 100%. I didn't see a big difference when I was in Wardak Province, and actually I was able through. My vehicle was a 1996 Toyota Corolla. That's what I operated in Afghanistan. I drove all the way from Kabul to Jalalabad in that, all around Afghanistan with my partner Tim, and Afghan interpreter, and one of our teammates did it routinely every day. And we went outside the wire in a 96 Toyota Corolla. Not an up-armored vehicle or anything, but that's what we did. And so being able to develop that informant network was what I was directly involved in. And we did that throughout our operational area and took a lot of munitions. But through that investigative capability, we mentored those Afghan policemen in the art of developing informants. Right. And then through those informants, identifying where the bad guys were and their munitions. So that was really, for me, the most incredible experience.
I'll tell you what, it sounds like it. Now, when you guys were over there doing especially surveillance kind of work and stuff, did you get to actually use some of the military drones and stuff to incorporate? Did you use any of their equipment? Did it enhance your abilities? You got about 30 seconds here. Throw it at me.
Dave can give you
30 seconds.
Story on that one.
I came into the country. They said, "Hey, you're going to be in the ISU." I said, "Okay, cool, I'll do that." Come into this room. We're going to give you all your equipment. Okay, what is it? Here's a cell phone and an M9 and a M4. You can get rid of everything, but your cell phone is going to be the only thing you have connecting you back to the fob.
That was it.
And that's how I operated for a year in Afghanistan.
Well, listen, guys, I wish I had another hour with you. It's been an honor to have you here on the show today. That's Dave Shearman and JT Taman and Agent Mike. If you'd like to check out the book, Outside the Wire in Blue, fantastic book. Yes, I might let you borrow mine when it's all over. I don't know. But guys, thank you for your service to our country and everything you've done.
Thank you, Royce.
All right. Hey, that does it for this edition of Shooting Straight. Remember, incoming rounds have the right of way. I'll see you in a week.